The lowest note you can play is a B flat on this, which is concert D flat, and that's fingered by playing all of these, low C here and this low B flat. There's like a bunch of different keys on this mechanism right here that can be used. The lowest one is B flat, and then in order, so that's the lowest note on the horn, and then so pretty much getting higher. After you get away from this mechanism right here, it's just less fingers, generally speaking, less fingers gets higher. So like here's a chromatic scale. As you get higher for one octave, there is a point where you hit the break, going from a C sharp in a chromatic scale, going from a C sharp, which is nothing, to a D, which is all minus the pinky. So it's a lot of movement just for a half step.
So an experienced arranger would never write a trill across those two notes.
Oh, they would, because there's false fingerings that you can use. Instead of playing, you can simply go. But if you're in amongst a trill type setting, you can't hear the difference.
Right.
As opposed to going. That's just like impossible. You know?
I had a friend who was a bassoon player, and he told me that the contrabassoons, that they're very expensive, they're good ones, and he said they're all different at the very highest notes. They're all out of tune, and you have to change your embouchure and how you blow to correct for them. You have to learn the particular instrument.
Yeah. I mean, it varies depending on which specific horn you're playing. Not like alto, tenor, or bari, but every horn is different in how it speaks, how it plays the note. Mine actually needs some work right now, but you sort of get used to how it feels to play in tune. And there's various exercises you can do. Like a good exercise to do is the overtone series. Is like you finger a low B flat, and in doing that, there's a bunch of different pitches that make up that B flat, and so you figure out how to play each of those pitches by just playing that one fingering. So like. There's a bunch of different notes within that low B flat.
Within that key. So that's almost like a trumpet or a trombone where you
Generally,
blow.
Yeah, that's the same idea. It's called the overtone series. Within a note, like when you hear a certain note, there's a bunch of different notes that come together. So that exercise, the overtone thing, why you do those is because those overtones are, generally speaking, more in tune than a regular finger. So like what you can do is you can finger a low B flat and play an F, a fifth above, but it's an octave and a fifth. So what you want to do is try and match the fingered note as close as possible to sound as close to that overtone as you can, because that overtone is more in tune, it's more of a richer sounding note. So you want to try and get the fingered note, the one that you're always going to play, to sound as much like that overtone as you can. So you do that by matching everything, how it feels like in your throat to get that overtone, your tongue position, it's just like how it feels in your chest. You want to emulate that as much as possible to get that regular note that you're going to play all the time to sound just like it.
So obviously you don't just blow into it. Maybe you could even talk about embouchure a bit, because I know it, and I know it takes years and years of practice just to get past the squeaking. Embouchure
is the way the mouthpiece sits in your mouth. You don't blow it like this, or like, all right, it has to fit in your mouth a specific way. I like to think of your bottom lip as a cushion, like a pillow for the reed. The reed is what makes the sound. The reed vibrates side to side and front, top to bottom, and that's what produces the sound. That's why it's called a woodwind instrument. So the embouchure is directly related to your sound, in that, in my opinion, why I think it should be a relaxed embouchure is because the tighter you get, the more pinched the sound gets. Like, this is with a relaxed embouchure. This is with a tight embouchure. So my reed hits the mouthpiece about right there. So that's as much of the reed that's going to vibrate when I'm playing the saxophone. So what I want...
Right, from there to the end.
Yes,
right.
from here this way.
Right, it's not the whole length of it.
Exactly. Obviously, the whole reed isn't vibrating.
Right.
Just what...
It's free.
Exactly, what's free. So I want to physically allow all that reed to vibrate. If I have my lip higher up here, then there's only this much reed that's going to be vibrating, which is going to constrict my sound.
Gotcha.
So I want to physically allow all of the reed, as much as possible, to vibrate. So I like to do that, find where it's called the fulcrum of the mouthpiece, where the reed meets the mouthpiece, and draw a little mental line right there, and that's where your lip should be. You don't want it to be before that because it's going to constrict it, and also you don't want it to be too behind it because it's going to sound like a duck call. You know, that was behind the line. Too much mouthpiece, too little mouthpiece, and then just right.
But obviously, you'll change things for expression, and sometimes intentionally have
absolutely
more brass
sometimes
sound or more
like subtoning. It has less mouthpiece in your mouth. You know, that quiet, airy sound is what is called a subtone.
Now, speaking of reeds, I know oboe players have to make their own, and clarinet players are always dicking around with them.
Yeah.
What's involved in that with the sax?
What I do is I will buy a box of reeds, and then I'll play and see how they respond and how they feel, and I will actually carve a little bit to adjust how I feel. Some brands you have to fine-tune more than others. Some people just play them right out of the box, and they don't even want to get that meticulous about it.
Now, this is basically one tube that just goes around, so the keys are openings, and
yes.
And what actually happens physics-wise?
What creates a specific pitch is when you push a button, it allows like if I'm playing a G, right? These buttons are closed, but these are open. So the air isn't coming out of here; it's coming out of these buttons, these specific holes which are open. You know, if I have all of them closed, all of the buttons closed, then it's coming out of here. But as soon as I open one, then it's coming out of there. Then I open that one, and it's coming out of here, etc. So the higher I get, physically, less saxophone I'm playing on. So when I'm way up here on the palm keys, like if I'm playing a high F, you see the highest key that's open is right here. So I'm physically playing on this much saxophone. That's it. Oh. So that's why it gets so hard to play up high, is because you're physically playing on that much saxophone. You know, you're not playing on the whole thing at that point.
That also probably makes intonation more difficult.
Exactly.
Are all the holes normally open when you don't press on them, or some of them normally open and some normally
Some
closed?
of them are closed, some of them are open.
So some are open until you press, and some are closed until you press.
Exactly, yeah. This one's closed, and then these ones are closed, which open right here, and the upper palm keys are closed as well until you open them. As well as the octave key, which you wanted to go over. So to go up an octave, you push this button right here.
How much of what you do is improvising and how much is reading? I mean, you're a professional musician, so you must get a lot of different gigs.
Yeah, probably about, well, it depends what type of gig it is. If it's like a big band gig, then probably 95% of it is reading. But if it's like a small group improvisational type setting, then probably about 0% if I know the tune. So when you're soloing, you want to outline those chord changes because that's what makes the song the song. You know what I mean? You can play the melody and then just go off and do whatever the heck you want, but you still have to stay true to the song that you're playing. Say I'm playing Autumn Leaves or something like. You know, so someone should be able to walk into the club in the middle of my solo, in the middle of my improvised solo, and be able to say, that's Autumn Leaves that they're playing. This is a soprano saxophone, different than the alto that I was playing before. So it's all straight, there's no curve to it, and is a fourth higher. So it's a lot higher sounding. Everything with the soprano has to do with your tongue position, your oral cavity. Everything has to be in check. You have to do a lot of overtones to be able to play in tune. That's the hardest thing about playing a soprano. Is like you can play all the notes and everything, but to play it in tune is what makes a good player on the soprano. If I am reading a piece of music for soprano saxophone and it says play a C, I would play a C like that. And also if I was reading a piece of alto saxophone music that said play a C, it would still be this fingering, but it's a different note. It's a fourth away. Here is a C on the soprano saxophone. This is a C on alto saxophone.
How do you do vibrato on a saxophone?
You move your bottom lip slightly. You don't want to physically see this, but if you like get a microscope to your lip, like physically you're moving your bottom lip, or your jaw. It depends. This is without vibrato. This is with vibrato.
Is it harder to play soft than loud?
Yes, absolutely. As soon as you play soft, everything goes out of tune. Like the key to playing with dynamics is to not change anything here. Anybody can play loud. You can play all the stuff you want to play, sound as hip as you want loud, but you can ask someone to play that same stuff quiet and then see how good they sound. You know what I mean?
How old are you?
I'm 21.
When did you start playing? How old were you?
Oh, geez. I started playing in the 5th grade. I just graduated. So 11 years now or so.
And you practice a lot.
Yes.
I mean, it takes thousands and thousands and thousands of hours to be good and get a good tone.
Even about 1 million hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.